Good evening, everybody. I think I'm live. Let me know if you can hear me, if I'm live. Thank you. Some of you posted questions. I'll check those out in a second. Thank you for that and for the questions via email as well. Just give me a second. We had some reply to this one. Wait for everyone to join us. Can you guys hear me okay? Hi, everyone. Jonesy saying hi all. Hi, Jonesy. Sound fine, thank you. I put a little bit of background music. Is that too loud or okay? Loud and clear. Can hear and see okay. Thank you, thank you. Right, I'm going to go back to the beginning and just look at some of these questions. Sylvia, 3 questions. Why out of all martial arts did you pick Kung Fu? Why Kung Fu to start with? How can one best improve velocity and training? What's your favourite ice cream? Sylvia, okay. Barnaby, yeah, side effect of martial arts on deal with stress situations the rest of life. That was a nice question you would ask me previously. I'm going to go into that. Fudao, use of 1,000-character hands. Chinzi Sao from Snake section of Tiger Crane. Hungar, left press, snake points to heaven, double falling, back fist. Yep. More about Dantean. Does it store and release chi? What does it mean to sink your chi? Okay. Morning, Sally. Hi, Anne. Lucas. Mike. Hi, Bella. Hi, Rich. Hi. What non-Eastern philosophies are most training? Hello, everyone. Evening all. Hi. Bit loud background. Right, it's coming down. Hopefully that's okay now. Right, lots of questions for tonight. I asked for some questions. You guys never disappointed me. Sylvia, I'm gonna reply to that. How can one best improve velocity in training? Because it's a more technical question. The personal ones I'm happy to answer, but I don't know how it really helps other people. Like, it's just me personally. So I'm more interested in helping you guys. I'll say a little bit about why Kung Fu. It's because of the time I was born. Kung Fu was very trendy. I mean, I saw Enter the Dragon. There was the old Kung Fu series when I was a kid, which made a big impression on me. And I saw Enter the Dragon when I was about 13 or 14, which was, yeah, when you're that age and you see something that's as cool as that, or it was at the time. And when you look at it now, it's very much of its time. But as I say, everyone was Kung Fu fighting. I'd done boxing, judo, karate, number of martial arts when I was a kid, but Kung Fu was the one that just caught my interest for lots of reasons. But as I say, that's a personal thing. But other people, maybe you've got to find what you like and what works for you. So the most important thing is what you choose is something you can commit and practice a lot. So if it's not something that really takes your imagination and you really enjoy, then you're not going to want to practice it. So best for me might not be best for everybody. Favorite ice cream, salted caramel. Okay. Barnaby's question when we come to that. Fujiao's technical question. Dantean, okay. Any more questions coming through? You're the one waffling, that's why. Oh, okay. Do you hear the grasshopper at your feet? You will do. You will do. Can you breathe through your heels? Someone else asked that question. I believe somebody asked that question first, about 2,500 years ago. Okay, not in the other room today, just guess habit. Right, so where do I start? I'm just seeing if there's I'm trying to get a vibe and see if there's a kind of a coalescing theme that I can enter into this off of. Okay, let's start with velocity. So there are 2 things. If one thinks of a car going fast, the main thing is the engine power, right? So therefore, strength is the basis of power. Power is the basis of speed. So if the goal is to improve velocity, you have to strengthen, and then that strength has to be converted into power. Power then has to be trained with the most efficiency, and that's to do with relaxation. So the ability to issue power, there's two parts of Kung Fu, as you know. There's the hard Ngong and the Lingong and the weights and all that kind of stuff. And then there's the Tai Chi, the Qigong, the relaxation. So if this is your kind of how much you can tense and this is how much you can relax, you want to make this as big as possible. And then you want to be able to go from here to here as quickly as possible. And that's power. That's power output. So going maximum soft to hard. And so most people may be strong but stiff. If you're stiff, you can't generate velocity. So it's transmission of power while keeping as much relaxation as possible in the muscles, but not in the structure. The structure has to be tense to propagate the power from the ground through. So a lot of people, when they see Tai Chi, they say, oh, relax, and they relax the structure, and then nothing can propagate through. So you need to have tension through the posture so that the power can transmit, but you mustn't have any stiff muscles. So that's a complicated answer, but stretching, the right kind of stretching, I mean. And Tai Chi, Kung Fu stretching is not quite the same as yoga stretching. So it's not simply a matter of range of motion, it's range to which you can connect. Okay, that's the first one, stretching, strength training, and then the ability to have an efficient generation of power. And then there will be your velocity. When you see modern people training and you see very fast, like bang, 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 that's kind of, some of that's kind of cheating. It's like you must make sure you have enough power in your strikes to do damage, not just speed for show. So when you see some of the modern wushu performance, it looks really, really fast, but it wouldn't hurt. So you must have power in the velocity. It's the same. Okay. Effective martial arts training on dealing with stressful situations in the rest of life. Hi, Joan. Bowl of Kittens. The video you posted earlier was amazing. Oh, it's my 𝐂𝐚𝐬𝐽 son. It's pretty cool. Very poor connection, yeah? How is it now, guys? Seems okay on my... I'm getting all the bars, so it seems to be okay. Right, next question. Barnaby's, the effective martial arts training on dealing with stressful situations in the rest of life. Okay, well, this is a waffle, right? So this is where I get a little bit waffly. The fundamental philosophy of martial arts, at least of Chinese martial arts, Kung Fu, Tai Chi, is that the physical body and the mind are not two things, they're one thing. So rather than I think, therefore I am, we have in the philosophy of Buddhism, Taoism, in the Shaolin, they call Chan. Chan is the Zen school of Buddhism, which heavily borrows from the Taoist tradition. They have the idea that mind and body are one. That doesn't mean the same thing as saying everything is all in your mind, or mind is just an offshoot of physical connections in the brain. Those are two different ways of thinking. So this is the problem with it. When you explain it or put it into words, put it into concepts, you have the idea that you have the dualistic idea, which is like mind and body are two separate things. Like it's consciousness and then there's matter. But in what we're trying to do in Kung Fu training is notice every thought has an effect on the body. Every movement of the body has an effect on the mind. So it's when you say the effective martial arts training dealing with stressful situations in the rest of life, when you really live Kung Fu, when you really get this, it's not something you do for half an hour a day or an hour a day. It is a fundamental shift in understanding. And so when you come at something in life, you're coming at it from a different perspective completely. So look at it from some practical point of view. So let's take it more of a kind of, let's be a little less philosophical. In combat sports, you'll find out, like if you're boxing and you get angry and you start throwing punches and you think, yeah, anger makes me powerful. And then you notice you get hit more, you get caught out, you're easy to counter. So then you learn that that kind of emotional rage is not very practical. And so that will help you in life, that when something happens, you're going to lose your temper and then you realize, there's more skillful ways. So what Kung Fu teaches you is how to channel that energy without giving way to emotional rage. So that's one way that it can deal with stressful situations in life. The other way is that by practicing your Kung Fu, you're ingraining some of the Buddhist Taoist concepts. For example, impermanence, emptiness, non-attachment. When you see these things, when something happens in life, it doesn't wind you up so much because you know it's not going to last. It's just a form. It comes and it goes. So you're more relating to the mind, which is bigger than that. So maybe that's a little too. I hope that answers your question to some degree. I'll answer Fu Jiao's next. I'll just flip. Is there any more question? Cogito ergo sum really messed us up in the West. Yes, and as I said yesterday, now it's Covido ergo Zoom. I can do sums too. Hello, David. Oh, hi, Sean. Going through the questions. I'm having to scroll up and down now because we've got lots. And I have some to go through on email as well. Use of 1,000 character hands from snake section of tiger crane, lift press, snake point to heaven, double falling back step. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about this, Fujiao. I won't go too much into this because it's fairly specific. The character 𝐒𝐻𝐽, which is 1,000 character hand, 1,000. If you look at going to Google and type 1,000 in Chinese, is a particular shape. So this is the shape of the movement. My Sifu used this part as 𝐒𝐻𝐽, just this part. So he would very often just do pair and then into the throat with this part of the hand. So from here to here. What was your question? Use of 1,000 character hands. So this part, something's coming at you, you're deflecting it and then coming back straight away, or a kick's coming in, your tongue-cue here, and then straight back with this part. That is 𝐒𝐻𝐽. The rest of the parts, 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐽𝐽, this 𝐶𝐻𝐽𝐽, this part, turn. This is not 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐽. In the snake section that you're talking about, you step through hanging stance, gag. This is called slicing the leaves off the bamboo. So if somebody's coming in here, this is coming into the neck. If this is blocked and you're coming back, or punch comes in, you're deflecting with this one, and then you're coming into the neck with the other hand. So this, my Sifu call this one 𝐵engzheng, not 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐽. So different schools have different terminology. 𝐵engzheng is when you're using both hands. 𝐒𝐻𝐽𝐽 is when you're using the single hand. More about dantian. Does it store and release qi? What does it mean to sink your qi? The dantian literally means field of elixir. So in the Taoist practice, the idea was the elixir of immortality. And you're creating the elixir. I think it translates as cinnabar, literally cinnabar field, but they translate it as the field of elixir. And that's 3 inches below the navel. Also corresponding to the center of gravity, more or less. When you're standing, that's more or less where your center of gravity is. Does it store and release qi? So there's some theories about this. Dr. Yang Jingming, I went to a lecture of his, and he was talking about, his idea was that because the belly, if you think of a pork belly, if you buy some pork belly, you'll see it's in layers. You've got meat, fat, meat, fat, meat, fat. And these have different electrical impedances. And one of his theories that was the abdominal breathing in the Taoist practice actually produces an electrical charge. And this kind of field is bioelectricity, which is how he explains it. I can't say, I'm not an engineer or a scientist. I'm more interested in what it means from a, what's the word? Subjective perspective. Like, what does it mean to sink your qi? I can show you very quickly and easily, person to person, but on the internet it's really difficult. But from an emotional point of view, you know when you get angry, what happens? Your qi rises up. So something really gets your goat and really makes you mad, and what happens is the qi comes up. Okay. Now, conversely, you know when you're calm, when you're relaxed, Instead of being angry now, imagine a peaceful beach or a forest or a pool, and your mind will calm and you will naturally sink. Okay, and physiologically, what's the things that are going to be attached to that? In order to sink the chi, first you have to raise the crown of the head. Then you need to lower the shoulders, the shoulder blades, and the elbows if you're doing a Tai Chi. Now the chest. You can't have a military chest and sink the chi. The chest has to come down here without rounding the back. So it's sinking the, call it containing the chest. When you contain the chest, you'll feel the breath move into the lower abdomen. When you can feel that, and you'll feel something there, then everything's coming down and concentrating on that area. That's a beginning, that's sinking the chi. Okay? If somebody pushes you when you're in that position, you'll be lower center of gravity, more stable. When you're like this, your upper center of gravity, you're less stable. There's more, but that's as much as I can do on a waffle, I think. Any other questions coming through? Wow, loads of questions. These are great questions, Mugger Harris. Thank you. Excellent. I'll get round to these. Right, I'm going to try and work through these. Where are we at? Spoke about Dantian. Dantian. Kanti is a Heicham Dantian. The chi sinks to the Dantian. What non-Eastern philosophies are most useful in martial art training? Non-Eastern. I guess Stoicism is a good one. As a sort of, it has certain similarities to Buddhism. Are there others? You know, I'm a little bit. I've borrowed from lots of things eclectically. Non-Eastern, Western would. I'm interested in certain aspects of at the moment. Jungian psychology and a few things that but I'm a beginner. I'm just learning. I'm just reading about these things. So perhaps there's more qualified people to speak about that. Next. Connection much better. Thanks. Excellent. Your neighbour must have finished their online shopping. Yeah, because I'm hacked into their Wi-Fi. It's really cheap, much cheaper than paying for my own one. Should Tai Chi be occasionally trained with extreme dynamic tension, eye for strength, but slowly? What do we mean by extreme dynamic tension? So, for example, in the 𝐒𝐻𝐿, when you push and you're tightening the core and pushing, and there is tension in the muscles, that kind of practice will build strength, no question. Should Tai Chi be practiced that way? Probably not, because it's not Tai Chi. They're kind of like different ways to the same end. The problem with confusing them and doing one in the other is it's like trying to run a Windows program on a Mac or an iOS program on a PC. The operating system is different. The strength of Tai Chi comes when you've completely relaxed the body and integrated the posture through and produced tension not in the muscles but in the fascia and the soft tissue. So what happens is it's like a wave that's propagated, and so you need to find that point. When you're in that point, you can add intention with your mind, but that's not the same thing as dynamic tension. It's a different training method, Lucas. They're both good, but they're different. I'm not sure how compatible they are. Next question. Read dynamic tension, yes, like hard Qigong. I mean, I would just practice the hard Qigong set. 𝐤𝐸, 𝐸𝐸, 𝐶𝐶, and all those are excellent. I wouldn't do the Tai Chi with that, but that's just me. Okay, Mugger Harris. Do you know the theory about stone throwing shaping the early human? It involved us to hunt in packs and take on bigger animals while shaping our body. Monkeys can't throw stones. I don't feel qualified, but it's interesting. Happy to chat about it. but not my area of expertise. I read an article which suggested that the human hand was shaped in order to become a fist to punch. And there was some article published about that in some scientific journal. And I don't, it's very, very counterintuitive to me. I don't believe that's the case. I'm not convinced. Stone throwing sounds much more reasonable. Why do I say that I don't believe that the hand has evolved for fists? Two reasons. First is when I was teaching Kung Fu for many years, most people can't make a proper fist and hurt their hands. And if it was something that we evolved to do, like walking, I think people would be able to do it quite naturally. It actually takes quite a lot of training to develop a punch that doesn't hurt your own hand. So I don't really think that's a natural evolved. So when we see the hand, they say, oh, the hand look is made to do this. Yeah, to pick something up, as you say, that's what we do different from other animals. We pick stuff up, we use tools. And that's a big difference. There's also some theory about sexual selection in humans, which is driven by the female being selecting for intelligence, something to do with social skills. Again, not my area, but read into it. It's compelling, and it seems to be that enables a massively rapid evolution. Brain size grew rapidly, especially when we had access to plentiful supply of fish and omega-3s and so on, and our brains could get much bigger, and then we could figure stuff out. So yeah, fascinating, but not my area. Cinnabar ore is what you extract mercury from. Very important in Western alchemy. What about Eastern alchemy? Yes, same. A number of Chinese emperors died of mercury poisoning, trying to get the elixir of immortality through mercury. Yeah. This stuff they don't really talk about very much now in China. This is old Kung Fu, and I think it's probably worth studying, because I think this explains a lot of the symbolism and the original meaning behind a lot of these really obscure Kung Fu forms. And you think, what's going on? The internal alchemy practice is complex. It involves various deities, various visualizations. It's a complex, deep subject. And not one that I've hugely delved into, but interesting stuff. Evolution is usually pushed by things that are beneficial to the species. Yeah, right, absolutely. There's natural selection and there's sexual selection, and sexual selection apparently goes way, way, way faster, because natural selection has to wait for kind of random changes to catch on if they're more suited to the environment. Whereas sexual selection has a purpose of going, okay, hence silly things like peacock's tails and ram's horns and all this kind of thing. And so there's a suggestion that the human brain is one of these ridiculously, impractically outsized organs that usually we see in other animals, but in terms of their, say, horns and tails, but brain's interesting, right? Well, what's the point? This is the really interesting question. It's like, evolutionarily, what is the benefit of consciousness, for example? What's that about? How does that help? What can we do with consciousness that we can't do exactly the same without being conscious of it? That's an interesting question. Also, it's quite rare to punch an opponent as opposed to walking. Is a good point. Jonesy, cinnabar is still used to bring the Chinese lion and unicorn to life. Yes, thank you. It's been a long time since we brought. I've never done unicorn dance, but in our school we have the lion dance, and yes, cinnabar. Right, I'm going to answer your question on the that you emailed me now, because I think I've covered all the other questions, I believe. Okay, Jonesy, with your permission, I'm going to read this. Just give me an okay. I can read the email and I can address it point by point, or if that's okay. I'm just checking while I check that I haven't missed any questions out. No, I think I have them. Go for it. All right. This is about breathing. But it's not about breathing we were talking about before. This is more about power and breathing. So I saw unicorn dancing when in Chinatown, Liverpool, similar but different. Unicorn is more practiced by the Hakka styles, so Bakmei, Longying, those kind of styles. And the dragon should respect, the lion should respect the unicorn, and the lion and unicorn both should respect the dragon. So when the lion sees the unicorn, it should bow, and when the unicorn or the lion see the dragon, they should bow. So there's a kind of a pecking order there. And also the lion dance uses a big drum. The unicorn has this little drum and big cymbals. It's a different sound, different sound. Okay, 1 second. Let's go into this now. Back to breathing. You prefer unicorn? Okay, can't say, I don't know. Breath control and vocalization in martial arts. Some styles are vocal when going for big power, some are almost silent. Okay, there's a difference. I'm going to shorten this. When aiming to enhance power output, it's important to have good intra-abdominal pressure in terms of punching, using it as a platform for loading up muscles and tendons to release explosive power, we call fat ging in Cantonese. Like a runner before a start gun. Yeah, that's a good analogy. Okay, this is by related control of the core, the dantian. So some styles, Hakka styles, as we mentioned, like to maintain constant abdominal pressure, like keeping a constant background air pressure in bagpipes. A momentary shout can produce big power, but this can result in one and done power release, a bit like a weightlifter bench pressing a heavy weight. So the potential problem with a loud shout is expelling too much air and deflating the bagpipe. I completely agree. When there's no air in the tank, there's no real platform for power. Okay, now the contentious part. Hakka short breathing is a bit like Western boxing, correct. Hakka derives a lot of power from large, powerful body swings, body open, relaxed, and wound up for power. The hips are used loads of angular momentum. Okay. Power comes out in small, sharp bursts in the southern Shaolin, Fo Chun Tan To. Okay. Okay. So here's where I think maybe is not quite right. Your thinking is not quite right. Oh yeah, back end of the line with Andrew. Yeah, I remember that. Okay, so here's the thing. I'll talk a little bit about this power now. So tennis, you know, some people grunt when they serve, some don't. You may want to compare the fastest servers, the ones with the fastest server, they're the ones that shout the loudest. What's the connection? As you say, it's about core pressure, intra-abdominal pressure. That's the most important thing. Now with the 𝐒𝐻𝐿, because there's a lot of times when the power is over a long distance, therefore you'd expect a longer expulsion of air. And as you say, the danger being that you get rid of the air, which means you need to reload in order to power out. Okay, but that's not what we do in 𝐒𝐻𝐿. Okay, so what we do, Jonesy, in 𝐒𝐻𝐿 is when we have a fast combination, is we hold the breath. We hold the breath. We only breathe out at the end. Then you can stop and go again. So it's not one breath, one punch. Whereas in some of the Hakka style, every movement is coordinated with the breath. So that's the difference. Now, what about the idea of fully breathing out? We want to have the idea that when you breathe, you need to keep this core tight and breathe behind it. So what you don't do is, you don't go, ah, and now this is empty. This is empty. Rather, this is maintained. This is never allowed to fully deflate. Okay, so now the sound, depending on the type of movement. So I'll speak a little bit about 𝐒𝐻𝐿. So different technique will use different kind of sounds. If the power's going out, you may use a vocalization like da, which is outward. If the power is coming downwards, because the sound has to match the muscular usage and the power generation. Tiger claw, wah, wah, wah. Crane, hop, snake, tick, tick, kicking. different sounds, right? So, chong pong pow toy, bah! Ha! You know? So it's not like a and then it's gone. So you have to maintain that, what you were saying, maintain that background tension all the time. And when you're throwing a barrage, very often there's a one breath held, several punches thrown. Hope that answers your question. How's it? Anything else, guys? I have one more question by email as well, which I'm going to answer. If that answers everybody, or if you want a follow-up question, that's fine as well. Type away. Somebody sent me an email about the 5 elements and wanted a bit of an explanation of what the 5 elements are in Chinese philosophy. So I'll talk a little bit about that if you want, or anything I explain is not clear and wants a bit more explanation. Everyone's gone really quiet. Elements, okay, sure. Anything that I answered that was either contentious or you want to disagree with or want another insight or a bit more explanation of? If not, I'm going to go into 5 element theory. Someone asked if chi is the same as feelings. How did I miss that one? Scroll right past it. I remember seeing it, but I missed it. Oh my God. Is chi the same as feeling? I think it's really close. Certainly in qigong, no feeling, no chi. And chi follows your intention. So if you want to, for example, put chi down the arm, you have to develop an intention down your arm, a feeling which leads the energy. And then as you get better, you get more precise and you can lead it more clearly. The danger of this, however, is when you can kind of start making stuff up and like saying, oh, well, I can feel it, so it must be real. So you have to be very careful with this, not to get into kind of a imagination kind of thing. But it's close, isn't it? It's close, but don't go too far with that. Get those likes up, folks. Thank you. Ability to model physical stress, jeopardy, and training as a way of preparing for outside. Can't do that in most things in today's world. Okay, Barnaby, I think if we really training to preparing for outside, are we talking about, you know, street fighting or something like that? I think Kung Fu it's not, or Tai Chi is probably not the most efficient way of doing it. There's too much. For fighting, you want to have a few things that you can do under very, very high stress, as you say, physical stress. So you want to have relatively few techniques. So you want to take your Kung Fu and you want to simplify it down to a few movements that work for you, and you need to practice them. And how do we replicate the stress of a situation? The only way we can do it is protective equipment and contact. I don't think there's another way. Well, apart from going out and getting into fights, which was the traditional way. But I think in today's world, so for example, my friend Burton Richardson, who's my teacher, is very, very, very good with the knife defense stuff. And he's got these knives that have electric shocks. They're like cattle prods. If this thing hits you, it's something like 20,000 volts, but it's really, really low amperage. So it won't injure you, but it's going to flipping hurt. And so you're very, very adrenalized. You're like, whoa. And you watch these beautiful techniques just completely go out the window when people are worried about this 20,000 volts. That kind of thing. That maybe is a way we can use technology in today's world. Most people are scared just to put on a helmet and gloves and put some contact in. So got to start with that. You've got to start with that. So I would say You want to have a few techniques, but you want to be able to hit them from all positions, and you want to be able to do them under high stress situations, which means sparring with grappling, sparring with striking, sparring with weapons, sparring against the wall, sparring in various environments. But it's always a trade-off. You have to keep it safe. So when you have a safety element in one area, you can make it realistic in another area, and then just keep switching that around until you've built enough instinct and enough experience to replicate it. But yeah, you can't. I mean, you're right, you can't do that in today's world. So hence, I think Kung Fu today is not what it was. Does that make Qi a feeling that you create rather than one you sense? No, I think Qi follows the feeling you create. You don't create the Qi, no. You use your feeling to lead the Qi, but the Qi is something different. That is awesome. What is awesome? I don't know what's awesome. No substitute for sparring, indeed. Oh, maybe I'm missing the connections. 5 elements, energy, directions, martial applications, could track, expand, up, down, and out, or singing, too much philosophy in martial context. Okay, yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. I'll talk a little bit about that now. Too much philosophy in martial context. Well, because it's the waffle, I feel it's okay to waffle. If I was teaching self-defense, I'm not going to spend a lot of time teaching 5-element theory. But you have to look at it this way. This is talking about Qi, it's talking about energy, it's not talking about specific techniques. It goes wrong when you talk about specific techniques. It's like astrology. Yeah, the original concept is that the whole universe conspires to one thing, to create you. So whatever happens in one place is affected by the whole. That's broadly true. When you get specific, and you start putting things in the paper like 1/12 of the world's population is going to meet the tall, dark, handsome stranger next week or something like that, it gets silly. And it's the same thing in 5 elements. That it's broadly true. It's an ecological understanding of how different energies interact. It can give you a very, very deep, intuitive understanding of a lot of things, Chinese philosophy, medicine, martial arts. The literal interpretation of it is, oh, this technique is metal. This will beat this technique, which is wood. And this will beat this technique, which is earth. And then so on and so on, and so you have a literal translation of, oh, this technique will always be that technique. Okay, you could say a wrestler can say, right, I can always beat a boxer because I can always go down and take his legs out. It's like, well, yeah, but then you meet Mike Tyson and it doesn't go so well for you. So same thing in 5 elements, right? It's a broad truth. You can say water controls fire, but if you have a raging forest fire and you have a bucket of water, it's not going to do much. Same thing with your Qigong and your Taiji. You can develop this internal power and so on. But if you're standing in front of someone that's just, it's a raging forest fire and you've got a bucket of water, no, you need a pressure hose. you need enough of it. So theory and practice, right? Electric knives are awesome, yeah, for carving. There are clips of Burnt Chapman sparring with them. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, check them out. Jeet Kune Do Unlimited. He's also produced a book that I reviewed, which is, he calls it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the Street. And if you're talking about training for real sparring, it's just brilliant because he's put so many different traditional and modern and just pulled from so many sources and just taken the most functional stuff and tested it all, and it's excellent, excellent stuff. And that's a better approach if your goal is purely self-defense. I think I caught the end of the knife training. Hi, Bruce Lee. Okay, so where am I? I'm going to find the 5 elements for you. What's your take on the knife crime epidemic? I'll tell you. I'll talk a little bit about that. I'm just finding my 5-element picture to show you guys. Okay. Knife crime epidemic. The problem is most of what's taught as knife defense is nonsense and will get you killed. And the best thing to do if you see a knife is run. However, are electric knives legal in UK? I tried to buy some, Gordon, and get them imported, but they wouldn't allow me to import them. They're illegal to import. What's your take on the knife? People should stop stealing knives. Whack, whack. Yeah, so for the most part, you know, knife defense is really, really, really difficult. And the stuff that Burton teaches is the stuff that, of all the stuff I've tried, that's the stuff that works best. And if you train it like for a few hundred rounds, you can get to the point where you have a good chance, I would say, especially if the other guy doesn't know what you're doing. But there's no really foolproof method, and it's horrible. So Burton used to show videos of actual people getting stabbed and knife attacks and stuff, and it was disgusting. And he'd say, look, look away if you need to, but bear in mind, this is what you're practicing for. And if you can't even look at it, you're really not going to stand a chance. It's amazing the amount of people who used to come to my knife defense courses that wouldn't put a helmet and boxing gloves on and spar with punching, and yet they all wanting to learn knife defense. And the honest truth is, if a jab to the nose scares you, don't even think about a knife. Don't even think about it. So the knife crime epidemic, I volunteered and I sent a letter to the police saying that I would be happy to train some of the officers up in some of these methods, free of charge, just to, because I think it's just horrible, and I just felt so bad for the police having to face this stuff and being so ill prepared. So I offered to teach, and their response was to send 2 officers to my school and tell me that I wasn't allowed to teach it and that I shouldn't be teaching it, and that they felt it was really bad that the public should think about knife defense. And I have my own opinions about that, but I think that's pretty well sums up what's wrong with the world today, right? Individual power's gone. People are absolutely... One of the officers was a lady who said, if you see a knife, you should run. I said, yeah, absolutely. I said, do you have kids? She said, yes. I said, if someone attacked your kid with a knife, would you run away and leave them? She couldn't answer that. So yes, it's better to run away, but you can't always run away. So what are you going to do then? Deter someone from this lifestyle. Take up martial arts. Martial art is so wonderful for kids. Not in terms of the physical, like learning to defeat knives and stuff. I don't mean that. I mean, give them a discipline. Give them kids that need that kind of outlet, that need that kind of thing. Things like MMA competitions are so useful. It's all very well for us older people who don't have that need in the young men of like this kind of validation and this kind of hierarchical combat. And so we can say, oh, combat sports are terrible, they're barbaric, punching people in the head should be banned, blah, 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 blah. And we want to sweep it under the carpet, but that's ignoring the problem. And what happens then is these young guys don't have any outlet for this. And so they turn to gangs, to crime. And if there was a outlet like combat sports where they could discipline themselves, they understand the importance of controlling their emotions, regulating their, by doing their training and their diet, they're learning self-discipline, self-respect. There's an ethical code that's taught with it. There's some rules. And then they climb the hierarchy through competition and fair competition. Then you're transforming society and you're doing really, really good stuff. So it doesn't matter. Boxing, judo, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, MMA. Pick the thing that you like, go for it, and immerse yourself in it. Too many kids carry knives without understanding what they do. Because the role models, you see, the wrong role models. They need the right role models. It's crappy dads. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about this. We're almost time. Okay, can you see that? 5 elements. Normally, when I learned it, we put that. Hang on a minute. I need to how do I stop it spinning around? Anti-rotate. No, that's not working. Sorry, guys. So anyway, normally when I learn this, we put fire on the top, but this is the gist of it. See it on TV? Yeah. Okay. So I'll just talk a little bit about 5 elements, and we'll go on. Full contact chess is good. I won't get into this. Not even getting into this. Okay, so here's the 5 elements of Chinese philosophy: fire, earth, metal, water, wood. And each one has a color. So red is fire, yellow is earth, white is metal, black or sometimes blue is water, and green is wood. So conceptually, there are 2 cycles. There's what we call the creation cycle and what we call the destruction cycle. So wood creates fire. It's pretty clear, right? Fire creates earth, as in ashes. Earth creates metal, because you find metal ore in the earth. Metal creates water, Generally, that's taken to mean condensation. Water creates wood because if you water the plants, they grow. So you can see that each one creates the other. But then conversely, you have a control. So fire melts metal. Metal cuts wood. Wood splits the earth. Earth dams water. Water puts out fire. So the control cycle makes a pentagram star, and the creation produces a circle. Now, what's this got to do with stuff? Well, in the Qigong and the 5 elements, wood represents the liver, which is the emotion of anger. Fire represents heart, the emotion of joy. Earth represents the stomach spleen with the emotion of worry or pensiveness. Metal represents the lungs with the emotion of grief. Water represents kidneys with the emotion of fear. So what you have is this kind of fairly sophisticated understanding that symptoms can be caused by other things, not just looking at the one thing. You're looking at it like a, what's the word? Holistically, like an ecology, rather than saying, oh, you know, a heart surgeon, hang on a minute, heart surgeon might say, oh, we have a, here we go. Heart surgeon might say, oh, you have a problem in your heart. We're going to go in and treat your heart, or a kidney specialist and so on, liver specialist. But someone who has this kind of zoom back might say, okay, your fire is too high, but that's because your water is too low. So the control is wrong. Not enough water to control the fire. So you have yang full symptoms in the heart, but actually the problem is your kidneys are weak. So you give you herbs for your kidneys. So it's a very, to the Western way of thinking, quite counterintuitive. But I'm thinking more science now is going kind of this way in terms of systems theory, as opposed to looking at things too, what's the word, rigidly, or what's the word? What's the opposite of holistically? Metal, air. Yeah. I know we've got the old elements in the was it the Greek, the earth, water, fire, and air. Metal, you can say, is air because it relates to the lungs and the large intestine. Reductionist. Thank you. That's the word I couldn't get. Okay, but these aren't really. They translate into English as 5 elements, right? But it's not elements. It's the wrong word to translate. In Chinese, they call hang. Hang is not an element in the sense of, yeah, we've got the periodic table, and we've also got the stages, like of the matter of being solid, liquid, gas, plasma. So maybe a better translation would be phases, because they can transform from one to the other. It's a continuous cycle. It's all, yeah, phases, right? It's always transferring from one to the other. So element, I think, was because they had the tradition in the Greek as being the 4 elements, so they used the same word for the translation, but it's not quite the same. That's why I think metal more fits it than air does. So what's that got to do with martial arts? Some styles like Jingyi have a particular, like, metal is splitting, yeah? Fire is rising, and so on. You know, horizontal, and it's not my style. So then they will have the concept that this technique creates that technique, and that technique can defeat that technique. So you have this kind of cycle. And again, it's broadly true, but when you take it literally, it's a problem. If someone knows this fantastic punch and I have the perfect counter move, it depends. It's by and large a matter of timing, experience. Can I make it work? Am I better than them? So yes, I don't take it literally from a martial art point of view, but looking at it from a martial art point of view, it can tell you about balancing things. It might, a 5-element perspective might say, you might look at your martial arts and say, my ground game is a bit lacking. Yeah, because this will beat this, so I need to bring this up. Or I might be really good at this and good at this, but this part is missing. So I need to work on my clinch skills, or I need to, you know, and so understanding in that kind of way, that's how I approach MMA, as opposed to learning them as separate entities. I look at them as an integrated, systematic approach. Fit the theory to the life, not life to the theory. Good one. Yeah, like it. In Buddhism, they talk about skillful means. So, you know, there are concepts and theories, but none of them are true. Ultimately, none of them are true. They're all fabrications of mind. The truth is what's left when all of that's gone. But to live in our society, you need to have these concepts. Yeah. I once asked my Sifu, well, which one is it? Which is right? Is it A, B, or C? And he said something like, my name is 𝐿𝐴, your name is David. Ultimately, that's not true. But if someone wants to call us in, you know, come in, dinner's ready, David, and you don't have your name, then you won't know, and you'll be hungry. So they're means to an end. They're not ultimate. None of these are ultimately true. And when people argue about, it's a bit like different religions going to war and saying, you know, we believe thou shalt not kill. We believe turn the other cheek, and they kill each other over it because they're taking it literally, and the words become more important than the principle behind it. Map is not a territory. Thank you, Michael. Exactly. That's exactly right. And nice to have you with us as well. Oh, okay. You had a question before. I missed it. The association between lungs and metal has always baffled me. Okay. We can talk a bit about that another time, but metal grief, metal value, metal receiving energy from the heavens, receiving worth, value, respect. All these things are to do with the teen-hei, the heavenly chi, and you're pulling it into the body, which is metal, and the lungs are to breathe it in. And every yin organ has a yang organ. So lungs are paired with large intestine, which is the opposite. It happens at the opposite way at the other end, right? So stomach and spleen, kidneys and bladder, heart and small intestine, and so on. Our minds need a working model. Yeah, that's right. It's fine. Just don't confuse it, as Michael said, the map of the territory. Metal, energy, and condensation phase. Yeah, also correct. Some of these are quite tenuous, but yes. Right, we're 20. I've been waffling for almost an hour, so thank you all for such great questions. Unless you're trying to live according to a philosophy, was that 11? Or just trying to live according to a philosophy? Well, this is the interesting thing, isn't it, Lucas? Because now it's become too much the other way. Philosophy is an academic pursuit. If you see someone who's a professor of philosophy at university, you wouldn't necessarily expect them to live any particular way. They're just someone that's memorized the thought processes of a lot of other people, whereas the original meaning of a philosopher was someone that actually lived their life according to a philosophy. So this is where in Kung Fu, we use the physical forms, the techniques, the breathing, all the stuff as a means to an end. So there is a lifestyle, there is a live your life according to it, but at the same time is the understanding that it is not an ultimate truth, that it's just a means to an end. And when you get to the other side, like when they say when you take the raft to the other side of the river, you can leave the raft. You don't need it anymore. So it's without an attachment. That's the difference. A professor professes, but may not necessarily act upon what they profess. I like that very much. One of my Kung Fu brothers said it's like talking about someone that's a specialist. He said a specialist is someone that knows more and more about less and less until finally they come to the point where they know absolutely everything about nothing. So that's it for tonight, guys. Thank you very much again. Have a great evening. And I'm going to do some practice now. And I will see you tomorrow on Zoom if you're in the academy. If you're not, Monday, Tai Chi Nugget. And thank you all. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your questions. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's been great.